you were faced with death. Mm-hmm. A bullet hits you in the right spot, you're gone.
I wouldn't be alive if I did not move from Phoenix in 2003. I wouldn't be alive today. The night I got shot up, I was at a party and I'm in my car, 1 foot out of the car. I was either calling or texting people to get to this party. And someone comes to my door and he's like, get out of the car. And it's this Mexican kid. So I get out, I see there's like 6 of them lined up. So I got jumped outside of my car. No idea who these kids even were. And I remember driving home. I get to my mom's house, park in the driveway, go in the front door, go to the freezer to get some peas or something to ice my face. I was in the house for maybe 30 seconds, out of the car for maybe 40. Pop, 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 pop. Car got shot up right outside my mom's house. She could have been outside. She could have got shot. I could have been sitting in the car and I would have got shot in the back of the neck because one of the bullets went through the headrest. So at 18 years old, 2003, I could have been a statistic. Walked to the corner store the next day and I'm walking back and I get shot in the back because I was being unauthentic to me. I was trying to be a thug. I was trying to run around with thugs.
Devin Burr, welcome to the roller coaster.
Thanks for having me, brother. Appreciate you having me.
Excited to dig in. So Devin's actually, the reason that I normally wear hats is if the guest on the other side has better hair than I do, then I don't like to show my hair. So I'll go ahead and just cover it up with a hat. Devin's got some of the best hair, for those not watching but listening, that I've ever seen. It must be your genetics.
It's a toupee, actually.
Okay.
No.
Well, implants are getting a lot more popular, so I wouldn't be surprised if that was a thing.
Dude, funny story actually about that is this was probably 5-6 years ago, and I'm in the checkout line at a convenience store, and this lady with this accent from across the pond, she's British or something,
Yeah.
older lady, she says, my goodness, I'm butchering the accent, but she's like, my goodness, you have a smashing head of hair.
That actually was pretty good.
And I just look over and I'm like, thank you. She's like, smashing.
Smashing.
Smashing head of hair.
Never heard it described like that, but that I will be using.
Highlight of my year right there.
Moving forward. Well, I can reiterate, it is great hair.
Appreciate you.
So one of the things that you are often brought on podcasts to talk about is infinite banking. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today, but not a lot. Before we get into infinite banking, which I know the audience is just can't wait to hear about, I want to ask you about trauma. This is a topic that I care deeply about. It's one that I talk a lot about. When we talk about the roller coaster, it's a great analogy to describe the ebbs and flows that we go throughout our lives. And a lot of times the ebbs are things that potentially could build up trauma, right? And I've been learning a lot more about childhood and how our childhood really plays a big role in our lives as we get older. And so what are your feelings on trauma, Devin?
I think it's something that shapes us for sure. To your point is things throughout your childhood can definitely shape who you are in a good way and a bad way. Like something that sticks out to me right off the top of my head is I saw my mom get beaten as a little boy. And I get emotional just thinking about it because I'm a mama's boy. I was youngest of 3. And I saw my mom get thrown across a room. Couldn't do anything about it. I'm just 6-7 years old. And that affected me a lot throughout my childhood, just seeing that, right? Not being able to do anything about it. It put me in a shell. I was very shy, very, very timid around people, and that wasn't naturally me. I was just like a social butterfly as a little kid. I just wanted to be around everybody. I love being around people. And then that boxed me in and shut me off to the world for a long time. And then I saw it happen again when I was a teenager. I could do something about it at that point. And I did. And It felt good. It felt good to like protect my mom, and like that's just a trauma that always sticks out to me from a very young age, and that it affected me for sure for a long, long time, and I never really understood why it did until I started really self-reflecting. I got into meditation and different things to work on me a few years back. I started really realizing things that happened in my childhood, what it did to me as a young adult, and then also as an adult,
Yeah. Wow. I'd love for you to describe what you did, how you reacted. Now you're a teenager, you're growing up, right? We're taught as young guys, always respect your elders, right?
Yep.
But you go into survival mode, defense mode, like whatever you want to call it. Maybe it's offense, I don't know. But you go into some kind of mode when you see this happening. What happened? Describe that experience.
So I think I was about 17, 18 years old, somewhere in that ballpark. And I had really gotten into training hard. I was playing basketball at the time, training hard, lifting weights. So I'm feeling testosterone's kicking in. I'm feeling like a man at this point, right? And a strong one at that point. And I hear my mother and her boyfriend arguing.
Different guy than when you were 6'7".
Yeah.
6, 7 years old. Okay.
Yeah. So my parents got divorced when I was really, really young. I think 4, 5 years old.
Yeah.
And then my dad remarried pretty much right away. They've been together ever since, my stepmom. And my mom just in and out of relationships. And when I was 17, 18, I heard them fighting, heard the arguing. And then I heard some things like I heard it got physical, right? And I opened the door to the room. They were in her room. And you could tell he got like kind of, I got to straighten up a little bit. Can't do what I was just doing. You could tell something was going on.
Yeah.
And I just looked at him. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, don't you ever touch my mother. He's like, I didn't put a hand on her. And I looked at her and she was just, you could tell that she was in a precarious situation. Walked right up to him. Like, don't you ever put a hand on my mother. He was looking right through me. He's like, what are you going to do about it? I freaking lost it. Like adrenaline spike like you would not believe. And it never felt so good hitting someone in my entire life.
Yeah.
I'm not really a fighter in my nature. I'm more of a lover, but the rage that I felt in that moment, I saw nothing but red. What are you going to do about it? I'll show you. And never felt so good to just put someone on their ass. This grown man, 40-something-year-old man, 50, who knows how old he was at the time. I'm this 17, 18-year-old kid. And, they didn't last much longer. I'll never forget that situation, though.
That's, I mean, the way that you said that the second time, what are you going to do about it? This is like, what, 15, 20? This is 20 years ago now?
Yeah, 20 years ago.
And, like, you probably remember this like it was yesterday. It's got to be very clear.
Oh, yeah.
You're a man of many tattoos, at least on one half of your body.
Yes.
Soon to be exclusively on one half of your body.
Yes.
Did you ever tattoo that on your body? What are you going to do about it?
Oh, that's actually might be a really good one to put.
100%.
I like that.
Because it's like, I love the idea of somebody or an audience of people or the world looking at me in the face and saying, what are you going to do about it? And just going, I'll just keep showing you today, tomorrow, the next day, and forever. I'll just keep showing you what I'm going to do, right? I don't need to say anything. I'll just keep showing you, right? Sounds like you didn't say anything when he said, what are you going to do? You just acted. Mm-hmm. You just said, I'll show you, right?
I think you just hit something that is absolutely vital for people to succeed in life is don't talk a big game. Just walk the walk.
Yeah.
Just do don't say what you're going to do, just do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Be about it.
Be about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like so often we want to like tell everyone what our plans are, right? And if it doesn't happen, guess what? Now we're someone who doesn't follow through on things.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
But if we just put in the work, take the actions, and results happen, then you have to deal with the other side of the coin is people will be like, oh, he's an overnight success. Right?
Yeah.
But they don't see everything you did that, preceded that.
For sure.
Or would it be preceded that? Who knows?
It's all the same.
Yeah.
In that scenario, do you actually care, though? Do you care if somebody thinks you're an overnight success? Like, truly?
No. I've come to the conclusion that if you don't have haters, you're just not doing something right.
Yeah.
The more haters you have, you're doing something correctly.
Yeah.
And I remember I want to say me and my mentor, Templeton Walker, when I got into real estate, we were walking a flip. Can't remember when it was. It might have been like late 2020 before I really started making a name for myself on social media. And he's like, so what are your goals? What do you want to do for this next year? And I'm like, honestly, dude, I want to get some haters. He's like, excuse me? Like, I want people to hate me. Like, I want people to like either love me or hate me. I don't want anything in between.
Yeah.
Because if they hate me, they're going to talk about me a lot, and that's going to promote me. If they love me, they're going to promote me. So, and I learned that from Grant Cardone. He's like, your haters are your best friends. Those are the people that promote you the most. So that year, I think I was listening to a lot of Grant Cardone stuff, and I'm like, I want some haters. I want lots of them.
Yeah.
Ask and you shall receive. I've got a lot of haters now. I love it.
That's good. That's good. I mean, I think it's, you are this TikTok overnight success, right? That's, posted one video. And I'm just kidding.
Still just that one video.
But I think there's something also, right, to be said about if you put in the time and you put in the work and you're about it, then you're putting yourself in a position to have a little luck, right? It's the Matt Rife story, right? Which is being talked about a lot, right? The comedian that did one video on TikTok went viral, and now he's did 26 million or whatever this year in tour shows. Before that, it was 12 years of nobody knows who I am in dive bars, comedy, small venues. And I think you had a little bit of that, right? With infinite banking. Like, you were about it. You were doing the thing. You had put in the time. You had done the research. You were building a business. But TikTok has enabled you to really amplify that business in a lot of ways, right? So, how much do you think that a little luck, being in the right place at the right time, taking a little risk maybe by putting yourself out there, has to do with, where you've gotten to today in your career?
I hate the word luck because I don't think anyone gets lucky. I think that opportunity meets preparation. So I was prepared for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Because to your point, I was using the concept of infinite banking. I was a practitioner before I ever built like a business around it.
Yeah.
I was just using it with my real estate, seeing the power of it in my life. Yeah. So I was using this concept to multiply money. It's making money over here, using it to then make money in a real estate deal at the same time. So I got two streams of money running parallel. One of them is compounding, guaranteed. So I saw that power. If this is compounding guaranteed, I can always use more to go make more over here. Guaranteed. I'll always have more. So I'm like, this is insane. I'm going to use this. I'm going to go gangbusters on this. And I started doing everything with it. Not only real estate, I bought cars. I paid for my daughter's braces, landscaping in our backyard, all these things that I would normally borrow money from or pay cash. Yeah. I started using infinite banking, which allows me, if I use cash, I give up that opportunity cost. So if I use the cash and I go do my backyard landscaping, now that money's in the landscaping, it can't make me money ever again, right? If I take the cash and buy a car, the cash can never make me money again. Infinite banking allows this cash to keep growing. If I get a loan, I have to pay interest to somebody else, right? So infinite banking allowed me to keep making money on my cash. And if I go buy something, instead of paying interest to somebody else, I just pay myself interest. Yep. So I saw the power of it, so I just started talking about it a ton, getting to the point where I was so knowledgeable about this concept that people were like, why don't you just get on social media and talk about it? I was scared to death, bro. Yeah. Like holding this phone up, I'm like, how should I hold it? I probably look like the biggest imbecile ever. I remember this time, I'm in my backyard trying to make a video. It's like one of my first videos, and I'm like holding it up, and I'm like, oh, I look so stupid probably. How's this hand gonna go? Where should I put it? Like, you know what I mean? Like what should I do? Yeah. And I'll never forget, I turn and I look, and my wife is at the sink looking outside at me. And she's like, what is this guy doing right now? And she's looking at me like, what are you doing? Why aren't you working?
She's like, how old are you? 12?
Right. And then it started making me think, like, if my wife is thinking this, what's everyone else going to think? So then I started having imposter syndrome and totally. Dude, I just got to a point where I'm like, who cares? Who cares what people think? One, I'll never probably see any of these people that are seeing this video. If I do, I won't know it's them. If I do, they probably won't say anything to me, right? So here's what I always tell people. If your message is rooted in love and service for other people, and you know that to be a fact, who cares what anyone thinks? Right? But if your message is rooted in greed, if it's rooted in anything besides just love and service to other people, yeah, think twice about putting it out there. But if it's rooted in love and service to others, who cares what anybody thinks? And I started just putting the message out there. Following grew like crazy. And then I started monetizing it. And it's been a roller coaster ride.
While we're on the topic, why don't you describe the concept? You know, I know you did a little bit, but just very simply for the audience, because I think a lot of people have a hard time really understanding what this means. Yeah. Right. I don't even understand really what this means. And I've actually had friends that don't specialize in it, but sort of offer it, that are insurance brokers and that have brought it up. And I'm just kind of like, I don't care. Like, I don't want to sit through this. Right. Yeah. So how do you simply talk about it? And then do you want to maybe give like one or two real, use cases, maybe things that you do in your life to take advantage of it so the audience can understand it better?
So I think what confuses the whole concept of infinite banking is in the name of it, infinite. Yep. There's infinite possibilities. You can do so many things with it. So then when you start looking at all the things you can do, it gets confusing, right? Like, if I spent time and told everyone what I do with my policies, they'd be like, wait, what? Let me get a whiteboard out, right? But at its core, infinite banking is literally just mimicking a bank. Think about a bank. When you put money in the bank, what do they do with it? Do they keep it? in a vault somewhere?
They invest it.
Yeah, because they view your deposits as a liability, right? They got to pay you interest.
Yeah.
So how do they turn that liability, your deposits, into an asset, right? Liability takes money out of your pocket. Asset puts money in your pocket.
Yeah.
How do they do that? They loan it to other people, right? On cars, houses, credit cards, student loans, whatever.
Yeah.
So let's say you put $100,000 in the bank. They got to pay you, let's say 1%. Okay. So for the year, they'd pay you $1,000, right? They take that 100 grand and lend it to someone at, let's say 10%.
Yeah.
How much do they make?
$9 grand net.
Net of 9 grand. So what do they make? What's their rate of return?
10%, $10,000, right?
No. See, that's what we're trained to think. We're trained to think like they paid us 1, they made 10, so they made a net of 9.
Yeah.
But they didn't use their money. They used ours.
Oh, sure.
So they turned 1% into 10. That's a 900% return. They're just using control.
Yep.
They're controlling our money for a cost, 1%. They take that controlled money, our money, and go make more. So banks are just making a spread, an arbitrage on money. And whose money is it? Ours. So infinite banking is literally just taking back that function in your life. Yep. Instead of putting money in a bank so that they pay us a measly 1% and they go make 900%, you simply have a place where you put your money that's guaranteed to grow at least 3.25. So it's already growing more than a bank grows. Okay. Then you borrow against it. So you're not taking it, you're borrowing against it. That money's going to continue to grow and compound tax-free for the rest of your life because you're not using it, borrowing against it. Now you're controlling, same thing banks do, you're controlling money now at 5%. That's generally what the control cost is, 5%, while your money's still compounding. Control at 5%, how much money can you make, right? I do a lot of private lending. So what I'll do, so this is kind of answering both of your questions, how I use it and what it is. It's mimicking the bank, right? So I'm controlling money at 5% using my money as collateral. Now I take that money, do a private money deal where I make 15%. So I'm keeping a 10% spread while my money keeps compounding at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'm making money here and I'm making money on the private money deal.
Yeah.
This is tax-free. Private money is taxable. But as that money comes back, it goes back into my banking system. Think about the bank. If they lend on a car, let's say, right? Car dealership gets the money. What does the car dealership do? They put it in their business bank account. It flows back to a bank. As soon as it's there, it's a liability. So the bank lends it out again. They lend it on a house. Somebody buys a house. So the lender is going to get that money, goes back into a business bank account. It's always flowing back to a bank.
Yep.
And the bank, the more that flows, it's the velocity of money. The more it turns over, the bigger their returns. So it's the same thing with what I'm doing. If I can borrow against my infinite banking policy, it's going to continue to grow. So I'm always going to be able to borrow more. Take it, make more money. It's going to flow back. So I've got more to borrow again. I can just keep doing it over and over and over and over again. The more I do it, the bigger it becomes.
Amazing. So what is the actual mechanism that you're using to do this? Is it an insurance policy? Is this a bank account? Are you structured like a bank? Like what's the mechanism?
So I refrain from ever saying it right away because as soon as I say it, people are like, oh, it's a scam. It's life insurance.
Right.
But it's not your off-the-shelf life insurance policy. Like when I say life insurance, what do you immediately think of?
When I die, money going to my spouse and kids.
A death benefit.
Yeah.
Right? It's not called death insurance. It's called life insurance. So if it's structured correctly, it has living benefits. So you can just use the money while you're alive. It just has to be structured that way. Problem is, most agents, they don't want to structure it that way, even if they know how, because you're paid off the death benefit. The higher the death benefit, the more the agent gets paid.
Yeah.
So if you structure it like I'm talking about, you have to lower the death benefit, lower the cost, lower the commissions, and have the client overfund it. That's getting them all the liquidity to use for whatever they want without cost, without commissions. So it's built backwards. It's not built for a death benefit. It's built for cash value, which is used as a living benefit. Yeah. Just agent needs to know how to do it, and they have to be willing because their commissions go down considerably, 60 to 90%.
Cool. So good for, i.e., good for the consumer, worse for the agent.
Horrible for the agent.
Right.
Only way it makes sense for an agent is if they can do a lot of policies. So that's
like you.
Yeah. So I've set up almost 1,600 policies.
Yeah.
In 2.5 years.
Which, to compare that to what a normal agent would set up, like what are we talking about? 10 times the amount?
Oh God, much
20
more.
times?
Much more. So a normal agent would probably set up, a good agent annually, probably, I don't know, 12, 20, 30 policies a year.
That's it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because they're looking for just big old policies. That's the only ones they want to do. So they're kind of cherry picking, trying to find those. And they just don't do a lot of business. So if you're doing 20 of an infinite banking policy, you're going to make very little money as an agent.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're doing 1,600, I mean, just there's power in numbers.
Sure. So Devin, you and I met through a mutual friend. Shout out Moj Day and Austin Zabek. One of the cutest couples in Gilbert.
Love you guys.
Hands down. So we had dinner and we met, and you were wearing a button down, you know, and your nice shoes. What was your boy wearing?
I think a button down and nice shoes.
I was wearing a t-shirt with a trench coat and a hat and a Viking chain, you know? And I bring that up because I have this conversation a lot with men, specifically men that I care about. And it's the concept of, I believe that every man will have a moment in his life, and typically it happens, it builds up over time, but then one day it sets in and they realize I can just do and be exactly who I want to do and be all the time. And I never have to dress a certain way, act a certain way, put on a mask, do a thing, you know, and so I feel with you a super high level of authenticity. Like I feel like I am getting all of you when we have a conversation from the very first time we met. And we talked about some really deep stuff that night at dinner. But I think you still have some work to do. And the reason why is today when we walked in, I'm wearing the Bel Air.
They're fire.
Fives, Jordan 5s. I'll put them on here for you to see.
They're fire.
And my boy said, man, I wish I would have worn my Jordans. He's wearing some, you know, nice dressed up Vans. And I said, well, why didn't you? You know? So I want to get into the conversation of authenticity. What is your take on authenticity? Do you feel like there's still a world where you need to act, dress, look, sound a certain way to cater to an audience, to a demographic, to a customer? What are your thoughts there?
Oh, so funny you say that about the shoes. Because, guys, I love these Vans. Let's see if I can get them in here. These Vans are freaking comfortable. And I was actually going to wear some Jordans. I had on some black and white 3s I was going to wear.
Nice.
I just don't wear my Jordans often. They're in boxes, and I don't know. I probably should have worn them. But to the point of authenticity, I'm a firm believer that like the more authentic you get, the more you ascend. Because I think as humans, we can be or do anything we want to do to an extent. If I just started acting different and super flashy and drove a Lamborghini and, you know, was wearing I am wearing a Rolex. I've got a nice chain. But like if I was wearing over the top suits and just diamond earrings, and if my chain had diamonds encrusted, if the Rolex had diamonds in it, I would attract a certain demographic of person that doesn't align with me, right?
Yeah.
And they might not align with like what I believe in my business and everything, right? But I would attract those people because they'd see me and they'd think, oh, he's just like me. I think at the end of the day, the closer you get to 100% of yourself, the closer you get to your superpower, right? And I look back at times in my life when I was being super unauthentic, and my life was like going in shambles because it's almost God's way of saying, like, dude, this isn't who I made you to be.
Yeah.
I didn't make you to be this person. What are you doing? Here's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
I think we kind of talked about it. I got shot at 18, 19 years old because I was being so unauthentic.
Yeah.
Like,
we're going to dig into that. So this concept you talked about of like the law of attraction is very precarious. Somebody look up the definition of that. I think that's the word I want to use here. Because when you got the guys, and I'm not stereotyping anybody here, but you got the guys that want to overextend themselves to portray a certain type of image when they really shouldn't be doing that. Okay, let's say, a lot of times these are not the guys that have real wealth, real money, right? That are trying so hard to portray this certain thing. And what that does is it attracts other men that are doing the same thing.
yes.
And eventually you have this cohort of people spending time together that are all faking it.
Yep.
Nobody's really about it. Nobody's really the guy, right? Have you seen that in circles? Like sometimes it's like, dude, if just one person could be like, hey guys, why don't we all just like stop this bullshit?
Yeah. 100%, man. I think about this a lot. It's like most people don't give two craps about, actually everybody could give two craps about what I have. About what you have.
Yeah, no.
Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody. They care about what they have.
Yeah.
Right? And how do you become very, 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 very successful? You help enough people get what they want. Yeah. Zig Ziglar said that. Help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want.
Yes, for sure.
So at the end of the day, if your focus can be less on you, and I've learned this from speaking on stage too.
Yeah.
When you speak on stage, if you're thinking about you get nervous as hell.
Yeah.
You feel like you're going to be ostracized. Everyone's going to look at you. Are you standing correctly? Are you sweating? You're in your thoughts. It's about you.
Yeah.
The second you put it about the people out there that you're talking to, I'm going to pour into them. You don't have any nerves.
Yeah.
It's like that with anything. The more you focus on somebody else, the more successful you become. Because it's not about you. So I think about that a lot, and there's so many people out there, and I was actually someone that did it before too. Is like, I want to look a certain way.
Yeah.
I want to look really successful. Even though I wasn't. I had 2 cars. This was 2013.
Yeah.
2014, I'm making like 180 to like 200 grand a year. W-2. So I'm keeping, after maxing out a 401k, I'm keeping like 100 maybe.
Yeah.
So it's $8,300 a month basically. I got 2 cars. I'm like doing bottle service every night. I'm like buying all the nicest clothes. Like I'm dead broke. But like most people would look at me and say, dang, he's balling. killing it,
Killing the game.
killing it, right? And I was drowning. I had to file bankruptcy in 2016 because of everything I was doing. I was living above my means.
For sure.
And then as I've started to make more and more money, I've started to get to a point where like I could afford some really, really lavish stuff.
Yeah.
But if I did that, if I went and bought things that I don't necessarily love, for instance, I bought a Porsche 911. I love that car.
Yeah.
Love that car.
Doesn't matter if it's a responsible investment. Like at the end of the day, some of these things are necessary. I agree.
Right. But with infinite banking, I actually make money buying it, which is crazy. I make, bro, no joke, I make $130,000 just by buying it. And then I could sell it later on, and that adds to the profit.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Crazy. So we could get into that offline. I can show you the numbers, but I love that car. That car is for me. I'm buying it for me, right?
Yeah.
Could I afford a more expensive car? I could. Like a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, but then I'm buying it to portray something different.
Yeah.
I'm buying
It's
it
not just
for
you. Yeah.
I'm buying it for the people.
Totally.
I bought the Porsche because I love the Porsche. It's for me. You know what I mean? I bought this Rolex. I love this watch. Every time I've seen this watch, I'm like, I'm getting that one day. Yeah. I had it on my goals. I write my goals out every day, almost every day. I should do it every day, but I forget sometimes. Hold myself accountable. Be authentic. I don't do it every day. I write them down as if they've already been achieved. I am this. I have that. I have a Datejust Rolex. That was in my goals for years.
Yeah.
And then when I got to a point where I'm like, yeah, I can afford that with, like, I could buy it 3 or 4 times cash easily. Let's go. Bought it. But it's for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, you saw me the other night at dinner and you said, I've been thinking about buying that watch, the watch that I was wearing.
Yeah.
And I said, cool, let's do it. And the next day you're like, I know the AD here is a good friend. And you're like, yeah, let's do it. Right. Like, that's good. But it's for you.
Right.
It's 100% for you. And I felt that. I had a similar experience to what you're talking about. Recently, I was at an automotive conference, and I built a software company in automotive that had a really nice exit a couple of years ago to kind of the gold standard of software companies in the automotive industry. And so it would be like if you were a cloud computing company and you sold to Amazon, to AWS, right? And I saw a good friend of mine there, and one evening I was wearing that Knight Rider chain with the Viking on it and the diamonds in the eyes, and it's a crazy. Do you remember this chain that I was wearing? It's a crazy chain, right? And he literally walks up to me, and I'm really close with this person, and I'm not going to call him out. Some people can piece it together, I'm sure, but I'm really close with this person. He came up to me, and I hadn't seen him in 6 months. And he looks at me, and he literally is like, "The hell are you wearing?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "What is this chain? This is ridiculous." And I was like, "Yeah, maybe for you." I said, "But I'm not wearing this for you, baby."
I love it.
And he's like, "Damn, like that was good." And he called, and the next day we were on the phone, and he said something about it again. And I said, "Hey, man, it's all good. Maybe that's your thing. You don't think that's my?" I said, "I love it. It's my thing. It's my deal. I don't wear it for anybody else." And I couldn't agree more. I think there's a concept that I think about a lot around this too, right? So dovetailing from the idea of authenticity to just the way that we manage the people that we spend time with, okay? So I came up with this concept, 6 months ago, called circle management. And I brought it up a couple of times on podcasts. And so for those who listen to this a lot, you're probably like, again, we need to talk about this. But I love getting people's perspectives and opinions on the way that they manage their sacred inner circle, okay? So when I say sacred inner circle, Devin, the way that I think about circles is you have the very, very sacred inner circle. This is probably 3 to 5 people that you're the closest to in your life. You spend the most amount of time. You give the most energy to them. you also receive the most energy reciprocated back from them. You love these people, you would take a bullet, right? This is your sacred inner circle. But then you have multiple circles outside of that. So you have your tier 2, your tier 3, your tier 4, right? And we can talk about what those buckets mean in my opinion. But I always think about it as I'm constantly, during planning, thinking about what is my criteria for somebody to be in my sacred inner circle. Who is in the circle today? Who should come into the circle? And who needs to leave the circle? And to me, it comes down to the mutual reciprocation of value between that relationship.
Agreed.
And then it comes down to, well, what does value mean? And it depends. Depends on what you need in your life or what you want in your life, right? It could be spiritual, it could be emotional, it could be love, it could be financial, it could be you just make me happy, you make me feel good. It could be anything. But that's for you to decide. And that's for you to manage. But also, just because you might want somebody in the circle doesn't mean they're in the circle. You have to give as much as you receive. Mm-hmm. It has to be about 50-50, but not at the same time.
Right.
It could be 100-0 some days, and it could be the inverse the other day. It could be 70-30. That's going to ebb and flow, right? Sometimes I just might need you a lot more than you need me.
Right.
And that's okay for a period of time. But that can't persist forever, or you're probably not going to stay in the circle. You're probably going to go, man, I am just dumping so much time and so much energy and love into this guy, and I'm not getting anything back, right? How do you think about this concept of circle management?
Yeah, I think you hit it spot on. There has to be equal value. And value can be, it could be a lot of different things. Value could be just effort, right? If I'm put this in perspective, if I'm constantly putting in effort, calling you a lot, trying to hang out, trying to do this, trying to do that, but then it's never reciprocated, you're never texting me saying, hey, bro, how are you? Never calling me, hey, how have you been? Hey, let's meet up. Hey, let's do this. But I'm always doing it. There's friction there, right? So I agree 100%. I've had to cut people out of my life because they simply don't put effort in anymore, right? Why am I going to put in all the effort? You put in 0, yet you're still in this circle? Doesn't make sense, right? I like how you described it though. You've got like your core group, and then you've got other circles. I visualized like a tree.
Yeah.
Right? Like the core of a tree is the oldest part, right? And then they say, what is it? Every circle is like a year or something like that.
Yeah.
So like you figure like the outside of the tree is the youngest, inside's the oldest, right? Generally speaking, your core people are people you've probably known for a real, real long time.
Maybe.
Possibly, right. Might not be.
Maybe.
They might be some people that most people would think, how is that your core? Perfect example. My core is probably people that no one would ever suspect is like my core people. You met Sam, my business partner.
Yeah.
Probably my best friend at this point. He's my daughter's stepdad.
Yeah.
His wife is my ex-wife. Her and him are in the inner circle.
Yeah. So for people that need to think about that, go ahead and pause this and think about what Devin just said.
Yeah. So guys, my daughter's mom, my ex-wife, I was married to her. We had a kid together. Remarried a guy. Him and I are now best friends. Her and my now wife are best friends. We go on trips out of the country together.
It's the craziest thing.
As a family. So we've taken our daughter 2 places out of the country. We're just like a big family. Like I consider Sam like my brother at this point.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's amazing.
But most people would be like, if they heard that, they'd be like, what? And we always love to bring it up and see people's reaction to it at first.
Yeah.
I remember when we told you at dinner, you're like, wait, so rewind that.
Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah. It's a little loud in the restaurant.
Never happens. Yeah.
Oh man, but it's so good for our daughter.
Yeah.
You know, because she has 2 entrepreneurs that are teaching her things about entrepreneurship, about how money works, about running a company. He's got a pretty sizable company. I think he's got 40, 50 employees, which a lot of people say they have a ton of employees, but they're like 1099. They're like people overseas. Yeah. He has actually employees on W-2. And then she also has like a really strong-willed mother, very opinionated. Like it gives her a different sense of like, she has that to learn from. Then she's got my wife, who's like super hardworking. If I could put her work ethic in me, dude, I'd be a billionaire right now. You know what I mean? My wife just grinds. So she's learning that. She's learning from 4 different parents that all have synergy.
Yeah.
Instead of, oh, well, Sam said this to me. And then I call Sam and I'm like, Sam, what the hell did you say to my daughter? Bro. Then there's that tension. Yeah. There's that butting heads. Like that's what happens all the time. When you're trying to co-parent.
It's the norm, yeah.
Yeah, and like, I'm her dad. You don't tell her that. Like, no, I view him as much of her dad as I am. He's been around since she was 3.
Yeah.
You know?
Amazing.
So it's just a beautiful relationship. That whole thing about like the inner circle, like I think at the end of the day, there just has to be value on both sides, like you said. There has to be. And it can go like a teeter-totter, right? Like you said, sometimes it's going to be ebbs and flows. But as long as it's usually around 50%, there's balance. And if there's balance, good things generally happen, right? So I couldn't agree more.
Let me ask you this one, Devin. How many people would you say is in that sacred inner circle for you? You don't have to name them, but how many?
4.
Let's say one of these people is somebody that you've known, loved for a long time. I do agree that typically that sacred inner circle are people that you've developed deep relationships with over time. But not always, because there could be somebody new that enters in at some point and all of a sudden they're brand new in the circle. And maybe you've known them for a while, but that'll happen too. Let's say one of these people, they're just going through it. And 6 months from now, they're still going through it. And a year from now, they're still going through it. And 2 years from now, they're still going through it. And you want to be there. And you want to be their guy. You want to be their rock. You've been there for them. They were there for you back in the day. When does the buck stop? When do you finally have to say, dude, I can't anymore. I've invested so much of my time, so much of my energy, my relation. Like, I love you, man, but I can't keep doing this.
That's tough. That is tough because I think about my mom. Hopefully she doesn't watch this. I hope she doesn't watch this because she'll be hurt by this. I love my mom to death. Like I said, mama's boy. Growing up, saw some really bad things happen to her. Stuck up for her. My mom's gone down like kind of a downward spiral of just, woe is me, and the world's against me, and just a negative, pessimistic mindset. And I view that as trash. It's garbage, right? It's her garbage. It's her trash. But like, if you bring it into my house, let's say you're bringing trash in my house, you're bringing garbage in my house. Don't do that, right? And there's been times where I've had to be like, Mom, you need to leave. Like, I'm a firm believer, like, you are a product of your environment. There's energy in everything. There's energy in you. There's energy in me. There's energy in this.
For sure.
This at a molecular level is moving. Nothing is solid.
Yeah.
This is atoms moving we just can't see it. This is energy, this microphone. If someone's bringing that negative energy around you so often, it's going to start spilling over to you and affecting you. I think you have a moral obligation to put yourself above everything else. How you're feeling, how your mindset is. Because at the end of the day, if your mindset's off, if you're feeling off, you're going to affect everybody around you.
Yeah.
Right? So if someone is seeping in and stealing your joy, stealing your mindset, stealing your frequency, your energy, you need to push them away in a nice way. But like, I've had to do that with my mom. One of the hardest ones I've had to do it with.
It's a great example.
It's like, I love her to death. I'll do anything for her. She needs me, I'll be there for her. I have basically taken care of my mom
100%. Yeah.
because she doesn't make a lot of money. She is on Social Security. I basically pay all of her bills. I bought her a car. Car was breaking down, but it's like, if you're going to be negative around me, you have to leave. Yeah. I cannot have you around me. So I think it's limiting. You don't cut someone out completely. You limit their interactions.
The access.
Yeah. You like, perfect example. If someone texts me and I text back right away, I'm training them to think that I'm going to text back all the way or right away. If I always do that, they're going to think, why didn't you text me back? And they're going to start texting me like crazy. Hey, are you there? But if I wait, they're going to start realizing like, oh, he'll get back to me.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be like this. Something as little as that. Like, sometimes my mom will text me and I don't text her right back. I limit that. I limit her in my life a little bit. Yeah. God, I hope she doesn't watch this because she will be very hurt by it. But I love you, Mom. Love you to death. And I've told you this before, that I can't have negativity in my life. It takes me away from my goals. It takes me away from what I know I can achieve in my life. And her and I have had that conversation, and she understands. She's like, so now there's times where she'll be around me and she's starting to be negative, and I'll just give her this look. I'm like, and then she stops because she knows.
There you go.
She knows if she doesn't, I'm going to tell her to leave.
There you go. There's some good conditioning there. You know, and I think I appreciate you sharing that example because it's the most common example as a family member. It could be a spouse, it could be a mom, a dad, a brother, a sister, usually it's a family member, and we go, well, we can't do that. I can't. They're my family. They're my blood. But I think the scenario you just shared is perfect around this. I think it's going to help a lot of people. So thank you for sharing it. I know it's tough. I want to talk about one last thing as we sort of wrap up here today. It's the idea of, I want to close this out by really understanding the roller coaster of your life. Okay, you talked about a little earlier the experience when you got shot up. Like, we can sit here on camera and say that, and people are going to be like, oh, boo-hoo, whatever. It's like, no, like, you were faced with death. Mm-hmm. A bullet hits you in the right spot, you're gone. Bye-bye, right? That's a big deal. And you talked about, as you've gone through your life, and I think everybody feels this, you have these moments, these inflection points where you change. And the trend line can be going up and to the right, or it can be going down and to the right. Right? So sometimes you have inflection points where you change for the worse. You get around the wrong people, you make the wrong decisions, right? But sometimes you have inflection points and you're going in the right direction. So I want you to maybe share a few of these scenarios, these inflection points that you've had in your life. And I'd love to hear just that story, that moment when you guys got shot up, and sort of where you were at in life as you go through this roller coaster journey.
So inflection point, I'd say the biggest one early on in my life was getting shot at. I had started off high school freshman at Arcadia, predominantly white school. And like my best friends at the time were at a different school, Camelback. Camelback was predominantly Hispanic and black. And I want to say it was junior year. Junior year, I'm like, I want to be around my friends, like my closest friends. So I switched schools. And before going to Camelback, I'm wearing like, this might date me a little bit, but I'm wearing Structure. It was Express before it was Express. So I was wearing Structure clothes and like, I don't know, Tommy Hilfiger and like Nautica. I'm like a preppy freshman, sophomore year. And then I go to Camelback and everyone's predominantly black and Hispanic, right? So I'm like, as a kid, I think you always want to fit in. You don't want to feel like an outcast, right? So I started dressing the part. I started talking the part. I'd speak with Ebonics, you know. I got really close with a lot of black kids at school. Like they'd let me drop the N-word with them, you know, because I was that close with them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Had cornrows. Was wearing do-rags, big jerseys. Like I wasn't being authentically me. Not in the slightest. And we touched on this earlier. When you get away from your authentic self, I think God has a way of saying, dude, this isn't what I made you for. Here's a little wake-up call.
Reminder.
Here's a wake-up call. Yeah. Change what you're doing. So the night I got shot up, I was at a party, and I'm in my car, 1 foot out of the car, and I can't remember if I was either calling or texting people to get to this party, my friends to get to the party. So I'm just sitting in the car by myself outside the party. And someone comes to my door, and he's like, get out of the car. And it's this Mexican kid. Didn't even know who he was. I'm like, okay. So I get out. I see there's like 6 of them lined up. So I got jumped outside of my car. No idea who these kids even were. And I remember driving home. I get to my mom's house, park in the driveway, go in the front door, go to the freezer to get some peas or something to ice my face. I was in the house for maybe 30 seconds, out of the car for maybe 40, 45. Pop, 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 pop. Car got shot up right outside my mom's house. She could have been outside. She could have got shot. I could have been sitting in the car, and I would have got shot in the back of the neck because one of the bullets went through the headrest. So at 18 years old, 2003, I could have been a statistic because I was being unauthentic to me. I was trying to be a thug. I was trying to run around with thugs. I had friends saying, dude, we need to retaliate. Let's get some guns. Let's shoot them up. I'm like, dude, I'm not this thug. This isn't me. I'm not going to shoot anybody up. I don't even know who these guys are. I haven't done anything to them that I knew of. I found out later it was because of a girl. I slept with a girl that had a boyfriend that was in a gang. She didn't tell me. Like, is that on me or is that on her? So I found out it was because of a girl. I could have died, and my friends are telling me to retaliate. Once I retaliate, then what's going to happen? I'm getting shot up and I didn't even do anything, right? So I moved to West Virginia. Phoenix, Arizona to West Virginia.
Because of this?
Yeah.
Just got out of there.
Yeah, because I got shot up. The car got shot up. And I remember when it happened. I had the peas in my hand. And, like, I kind of ducked down because, like, I hear the shots. And then my mom comes around. She's like, what is that? I remember I just threw the peas as hard as I could at the ground. Just infuriated that, like, what did I do to be getting shot at? I was so lost. And walked to the corner store the next day to get like a 2-liter of soda or something like that. And I'm walking back and I get shot in the back with a paintball gun. Broad daylight. And I'm like, it has to be them. So now I'm thinking they've got eyes on me every time I leave the house what's it going to be next? Is it going to be like a 9mm? Is it going to be a 40 cal in my back? Right? I'm scared shitless. I'm not this thug, you know? So my sister lived in West Virginia. This happened on a Friday night. Saturday morning, I get shot in the back with a paintball gun. Saturday morning, when I get to the house, I'm like, sis, she lived in West Virginia. I'm like, sis, this is what's happening. This happened last night. This happened this morning. I need to leave. I need to get out of here. Can I move in with you? She's like, yes, drive out tomorrow. So got the back windshield replaced on the car, had fresh bullet holes in the trunk and everything, and drove across country to my sister. Started going to school out there as a senior in high school in West Virginia. And the funny thing is, the cool part about like back then was to have like stickers with bullet holes on your car. I was the kid from Arizona that had the actual ones.
Like, yeah, that's how we do.
Yeah, so everyone thought I was like the cool kid, the cool new kid that gets shot at. Like, so, but it helped me like get away from the environment that I was in. It helped me really start realizing like that's not me. And then I was out there for about a year, got homesick, came back, and I'm dressing in like flip flops and like regular shorts, t-shirt, like I do now basically. And one of my friends was like, dude, you've changed. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate you noticing. You know?
How long did it take you to make that switch when you got to West Virginia? I mean, was it the next day you were boom, right back to, you know, preppy Devin Burr, like, or did it take some time to snap out of?
It took time, yeah.
It
took time. Yeah, it took time. I'd say probably 5-6 months.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a turning point in my life, 100%. Because I could have. I think we all have the ability to choose. We always have a choice of what we can do, right? I think that we and God are co-authors of our lives, right? At all times. So if we want to change how our book is written, we can do that. And prime example of it is look at anybody's body. That'll tell you right then and there that they have a choice of how they look. So if you can choose to put certain things in your body, you're going to look a certain way. If you choose to go to the gym, if you choose to do cardio, you're going to look a certain way. Yeah. If you don't, you're going to look a certain way. It's the same thing with your mind. It's the same thing with your environment. You can choose to place yourself in different environments where you thrive. You can choose to place yourself around different people where you thrive. You can choose what you feed your mind, right? I'm a firm believer of that. So I was able to choose, and I made the right decision at that point because I think I wouldn't be alive if I did not move from Phoenix in 2003. I wouldn't be alive today.
Amazing. You know, and maybe without going into all the inflection points, let's talk about the latest one, right? I think it was 2019. You had maybe your latest major inflection point. You've just been riding a wave up and to the right ever since. Tell us about that.
So that whole year, I learned actually about real estate. New Year's of 2019, right? So January 1st when the ball dropped, 2019. I'm with my buddy Corey Talbert. Shout out Corey, love you, dog. I'm like, I want to start doing real estate. I'm going to start buying some rentals and doing some fix and flips, like seeing all the stuff you see on TV, right? And he's like, well, dude, have you heard about this thing called wholesaling? And I'm like, no, what's wholesaling? And he's like, well, David knows this guy named Carlos Reyes that does this wholesaling where you just kind of sell paper and you make money without owning the house. I'm like, sounds interesting. So from January 2nd until like September, I'm in YouTube University. I'm learning everything I can about real estate, right? I feel like I'm a wealth of knowledge on real estate investing. Guess how many deals I had done?
Zero.
No action. So I'm like, all right, I need to freaking see this in action. I'm like one of those people where if I see it, I can emulate it. Like one of my weird strengths is if I see someone enough, I can emulate their mannerisms. I can imitate them.
Like, do you have me figured out yet?
Enough time, yeah. I can like impersonate like your mannerisms, right? It's just something that I can do. I see something I can emulate,
Okay.
right?
I love that.
So
All right.
we'll do that eventually. And you'll be like, oh my God, I'm looking in the mirror. I'll even grow my beard out. Actually, wife will hate it. I had a gnarly beard earlier this year and she freaking hated it.
Yeah.
So, forgot where I was going with that. Oh, the inflection point. So I needed to see real estate investing in action. So Templeton Walker, he was a homie of mine. I'm like, dude, I know you do this real estate stuff. How much do I got to pay you to just ride along for a day, figure it out, see how you do it? It's like, you don't got to pay me anything, dude. You're my homie. Come hang out for a day, learn it. Cool. Hang out for a day, fell in love with it. I was like, this is awesome. I can do that. Exactly what he did, I can do it. So that was like mid-September of 19. So I started just really trying to get a real estate deal while I'm working full-time job. After that, I would just grind trying to find a deal. October 7th, 2019, I lock up a contract in Chicago, Illinois, 6-unit, thinking I'm going to make like 220 racks. I go into Quicken Loans, which was my job, the next day, October 8th. And have you ever seen the Chappelle Show?
Yeah.
The one with Oprah Winfrey?
Yeah.
Where he gets her pregnant. He walks in and is like, I quit.
Yeah.
Dave, what's gotten into you? It's not what's got into me. It's what's gotten into Oprah.
He's like, I made it.
That was me.
Yeah.
I was like, I quit. So I quit my job to do real estate full time. Fell flat on my face. Flat on my face. I had no idea what I was doing. 2 months, I hadn't left my house. But I started learning so much about like how things actually worked, how money actually worked. And we are trained as Americans to go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a good job, get promoted, make more money.
Paycheck to paycheck, yeah.
As you make more money when you're promoted, you pay more taxes because it's bracket
You spend
creep.
a little more money? Yeah.
You spend more, you buy a nicer house, you get a nicer car, you finance it from a bank so you lose interest, you max out a 401k so you give up control of your money when it's worth the most to have access when it's worth less. You avoid paying taxes now when you know what the tax rate is to pay them in the future when you have no idea what it is. We are trained to be servants. And you guys can go back in history and look at this. This all started with the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers. They changed the schooling system because we needed to have more employees. America was the American dream is to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
That's how it started out. Everyone was entrepreneurs. The Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers saw that as a problem. They needed more employees for their empires to grow. So they got with, who was the president at the time? I forget who it was, but they got with him to change the schooling system. He was in the inner circle. They changed it.
Yeah.
We are programmed to be employees. And that broke for me end of 2019. I saw the light. I was like, wow. Because up until then, I'm like, I'm making good money. I'm balling, right? In 2013, 2014, just banging my head against the wall.
Yeah.
So that's when it changed, man. It was end of 2019, October 8th. Left my job, and I'll never go back. I'll never be an employee ever again.
What do you want to tell people to close who feel stuck in a job?
I would say bet on you, you know? If someone else has done it, it's proof it's possible. Right?
Amen.
Like I've done it. It's proof it's possible. I'm nothing special. I'm not the smartest guy. My IQ is probably very, very low. I'm not that sharp. I would say I've got good street smarts, but like book smarts, I'm not that smart.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, you're dumb.
Said it with such a straight face. But dude, I graduated high school with a D average. Like, I'm just not the sharpest guy, but if I can do it, I think anyone can really do it.
I love that.
It's just a matter of betting on you and constantly, vigorously, obsessively spending your time to get better. You can do two things with your time and two things only. You can educate yourself or you can entertain yourself. That's it. While we're awake, that's all we can do. We can educate or entertain. How do we entertain? Netflix, scroll on social media, all the things that don't really give us value. How can we educate ourselves? YouTube, books, asking questions with a successful person.
Taking people out to lunch,
Educate yourself. Spend your time educating yourself. Be obsessed with that. Become more valuable. Money, success, it chases value. It follows value. So the more valuable you are, more success you have.
Amen. Brother, thank you for coming on the roller coaster. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you to our sponsors over at Bucked Up. I love this company. I love their products, their apparel, and their supplements. Recently, they dropped the mother of all pre-workouts, Mother Bucker. This is not for the faint of heart. This will make you want to claw your face off. So don't get stuck in traffic when you're headed to the gym. I love these guys. I love this company, and I love their products. They are clearly the best tasting pre-workout on the entire market, and they're number one for a reason. Bucked Up is my favorite workout brand, hands down. And they also have my favorite apparel for working out and just for daily life. It's Lululemon-like quality, but for a fraction of the price that's affordable. So head over to their site, buckedup.com, where you can check it out. And for 20% off their entire site, use the code TylerHall20. Thank you for joining another episode of the Roller Coaster Podcast. It was a pleasure to have Devin Burr on the show today, one of the best looking guys in Arizona. The top three things that I learned from the episode today are, number one, I loved the new tattoo that Devin's going to get that says, "What are you going to do?" Okay. The idea of being able to stare back at the world, stare back at the doubters, the people telling you not to go forward. Just show them with your actions what you're going to do. Number two, I love what he said about everything being rooted in love and service to others. And when you do that, when you help others win, when you help others achieve and unlock, it's going to do that in your life in exponential ways that you don't even realize are possible. Number three, the more authentic you are, the more you have the ability to ascend. I love this one from Devin. The authenticity conversation was really meaningful to me. And I think it's an unlock that once you can get there, it gives you the ability to do a lot more and love a lot more. So thank you for joining another episode of the Roller Coaster Podcast. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.